Back, guys. Should have cleared my throat before I started recording. Welcome back. We had way too much fun last time. I would like to address that very, very briefly. I'm sorry for my new subscribers. I know I got quite a few from the stream I did with Nokosuchi. So I'm very, very sorry to my new subscribers who had to see that. It was not my best moment, but do I regret it? Not even in the slightest. I just wanted to say that that is not my normal content. It is very occasional content for when I am angry on the internet. So please forgive me for that if you really didn't like that and were considering of just unfollowing. I mean, I don't care. I don't know most of you, but I feel like an apology is in order. But yeah, my Chalk Hill, my Wembley, my Neasden really, really came out in that video. I noticed that when I'm angry, I pronounce my T's much louder. I'm not sure what that's about, but yeah, I was really angry in the last video and I apologize. I am not normally on camera, but you know, sometimes you gotta make a bitch cry. Sorry.
I'm a little bit unholy, so what, so's everyone else.
I wanted to talk about the image I drew. Originally, I wasn't going to do a video, but I feel as though a video is in order. I don't know how long this video is going to be. You will, because you can see how long the video is. But I wanted to do a video on it because I feel as though a thread, first of all, would be way too long, and second of all, just wouldn't be able to convey everything that I wanted it to convey. So I wanted to do a video on it, and I wanted to give you a little bit of a background or a process on how I started doing this image. I did not start with my image. I originally started with a few other images. I did a portrait of Ali Malik and I did a portrait of Sinin Kafir, who unfortunately is no longer on Twitter, and I had to take his video down for safety reasons. But I had originally done a video drawing Ali Malik, and we were talking about how culture is a very ambivalent thing for ex-Muslim apostates. And if you don't know what that means, I'm sorry, this whole channel is just... I'm so used to saying these terms that I sometimes am unaware that people in the audience don't understand what that is. What that means is I am someone who has left Islam. And usually that's a very contentious issue for many people. But this was a different point of contention simply because I feel as though I'm very, very disconnected from my culture, but I don't want to be. And the main reason... Should I move this mic? I feel like it's brushing against my skin. I'm just going to move this here where it normally should be. And I'll just move my hair over here and hope that it stays on this side. Sorry, returning back. I've always felt this contention with my culture while I was a Muslim, and now that I've left Islam, I feel the same kind of contention but in a different way, because my culture is now so intrinsically linked to my religion, the religion I used to follow. And it's this strange disconnect that I feel about it, and I don't want there to be that contention. You know, we only have one life, and I feel as though we should take as much from that life as possible. So I wanted to, with Ali's drawing, I wanted to convey his culture through his portrait, if that makes sense. Like, his portrait is very like, there's henna tattoos, there's flowers wreathed, there's the English rose, there's the Pakistani jasmines. I tried to convey culture as much as possible through his portrait, and I did the same thing with Sinin Kafir's portrait, since Sinin Kafir is actually Pakistani. He lives in Pakistan. So I wanted to do one for myself because I'm me. But my culture is a little bit more strange because I've drawn from a lot of cultures. You know, I was born in Bangladesh. I lived in Bangladesh for a while as a teenager, not for very long, but for a short amount of time as a child and as a teenager. You know, I grew up here in the UK, as I mentioned before, in Chalk Hill, in Wembley, in Neasden. You know, I'm a very London girl and I love this city. This city, like, I could not imagine calling any other city the greatest city in the world. Fuck you, New York. Fuck you, Chicago. Fuck you, San Francisco. Fuck you, Tokyo. Even though I haven't been to any of those cities, London is the greatest city in the world. And I will take that to my grave. That is a hill that I am willing to die on. But I love London. British culture is very much a part of me, so I wanted to convey that as well. Additionally, because I spent so much of my time as a devout Muslim, like I wasn't a Muslim against my will at any point, except until the end. Like, I was drawn into it by my father as a child, and then I slowly fell in love with it, and then slowly fell in love out of it, fell out of love with it. That didn't make any sense. So I wanted to convey that to some extent as well. And then as I started drawing this image and I, you know, showed my process on Twitter, different people had different opinions about it, what I should do with it, what I shouldn't do with it. And I felt as though, you know, that really added to it, which was why I asked for your interpretations as well. Like, I felt like that is always a very interesting thing to take away, as someone who writes material, as someone who draws. I feel like it's very, very interesting to see the perspective of other people who read or view the material and then are like, oh, this is what it means. But as I was uploading the process, different people had different opinions on it. I asked for different opinions on it from specific people, like my good friend Carl, who reassured me that I do not have mannish features, but I'll get into that in a second. But before I start going in, and I would also like to say, like, this is going to be a very identity-based video, and that is not a topic that I typically delve into because I honestly believe that identity politics are to some extent really, really silly, and we shouldn't be having them because we should just be able to get along. And I understand that the world is not like that and it doesn't work like that, and these issues are important. I just feel as though, like, on the grander scale of things, they're not as important to me. But this is going to be very, very identity based. So those of you who enjoy that, you're welcome. And for those of you who don't, I'll see you in the next video, I guess. But I would like to read the interpretations that some of the users fed back to me or through my Twitter. And for those of you who don't follow me, it's at Anger Spread Thin. But I would like to read those first, and then I would like to give you my interpretation of my own work. It's feeling very narcissistic right now, but I wanted to do this. So the first interpretation that I would like to read is from Alia Salim. If you do not follow her on Twitter, please do, because she is wonderful. And she says, since realizing there is no God and that you are in fact a goddess, you finally feel at one with yourself, all parts of it, your body, your heritage, your sense of your place in the world. It's a pretty solid interpretation. I feel like she got the closest to what I meant, which is why I read that one first. But I'll read the other ones as well. Al-Mari, who, if you also do not follow on Twitter, please do. He's like one of my favorite people on Twitter. Like, every time I read one of his posts, I'm just so excited to read it, because I feel like his level of banter is on par with mine, which I do not say lightly. Like, my banter game is off the charts. So, he says, you're a Bengali goddess of fertility. Thank you for saying that. But fertility is like something that I identify the least with, because I actually don't really want to have biological children. I want to have children, but I want to adopt them rather than give birth to them. Fertility, in terms of like a divine sense, is something that I identify the least with. But I mean, quite a few people said that, and I can understand that idea coming through from the image. But, you know, thank you for that. Aesthetical Uwu said, is it about the Free the Nipples campaign? Is it about, like, freeing animals? I can also see that, but no. I actually think that the Free the Nipples campaign is a kind of redundant campaign. I agree with it. I think that women should be able to show off their boobs in public. I just don't know why it's a thing. I feel like it should be a much less aggressive... I don't know. again, priorities. It's for me, on the grander scale of things, it seems like a very little thing, especially when we still have enforced hijab in other countries. But yeah, that's just my opinion. You don't have to agree with it, but it's not what I was trying to convey through the picture. And honestly, I have no qualms about drawing nipples in pictures. Like, I have no qualms with it. I actually really, really enjoy putting them in pictures because people are always like, that shouldn't be there. And I will always be like, yes, it should, because breasts without nipples look ridiculous. M. Brunel said, embrace your wild side, the side that religion tries to oppress. Again, it is something that is conveyed by the image, but not what I intended originally, but I'm more than happy to have that as something that resembles. Like, I'm more than happy to have that. Little Falcon wrote me like an essay, and I'm going to read it. And also, can I just say, like, I've had a little bit of a depression spell today, so I really, really needed this. So thank you, first of all, even though you, like, your interpretation is, like, so off the mark. But I really, really needed it, so thank you. Like, I appreciate your interpretation so much, even though, like, honestly, none of it is relevant to what I actually meant. And that is, by no way am I saying that your interpretation is wrong, because it's artwork. You can take whatever meaning you want from it. But I'm just saying, like, everything you said, while valid, is not what I meant. And I think that really speaks to humans and how we interpret things, and how, like, it doesn't matter what I originally intended, you can draw your own meaning from things. All of this means that, really. But Little Falcon says, you're a goddess. The gold disc explains your divinity. Your breasts explain that you are a goddess of fertility, which is something that someone else had said before. But as they are held, it means that you are generous only for those that worship you. The red circle on the forehead and on the chest is the only place that you hold your true love for the people you choose. The lion and the tiger means that every king, the lion, and wise men, the tiger, bow down to you. The roses mean that you are the goddess of love, and the white flowers mean that you are the goddess of purity. The green part of your face means that you are the goddess of nature, and through your mouth every living thing takes life. You're a true fan. I would like to say that. Thank you for giving me that beautiful thing to read, even though I would never deign to take that meaning myself in any image I drew of myself. But thank you. I needed that today. Freewheeling Skeptic said, there is no God but me, which is what the lettering means. La ilaha illa ana. There is no God but nature itself. He asks a lot of questions, which is, typical of a skeptic. The ape-like hand is trying to deflower nature. Too much going on in the picture. Why is the goddess covering? Is she holding herself back? Thank you for that. I will go into it in a second. And lastly, Chrysanthrope the Nulphidian says a beautiful girl surrounded by predators fitting. I actually didn't see that originally, but when you said it, it made me think. But now I would like to go into what I intended for the picture to mean, or the meaning that I was trying to convey, and whether or not that came through. I mean, I feel as though some of it translated, some of it didn't, but I would just like to talk about it because I feel as though I've realized things drawing this picture of myself. That sounds so narcissistic. I am sorry, but I am on this journey of self-discovery, and I just want to share it all with you, and also invite you to do the same, because I feel as though many people go through this life without fully discovering themselves, and those of us who are privileged enough to be able to think about that, I feel as though it's important that we do. And obviously there are more important things in life than discovering yourself. I'm not going to sit here and deny that. But I'm in a position where I can do that, and I would like to share that with you, and maybe invite you to think if you are also in a position where you can do that. If I am like eating my words, please let me know. It's something that I really want to improve on. So the first part that I want to address is the composition. So the original composition, I'll throw it up here. at a point in the video, the original composition was going to be two big cats, so one a lion and one a tiger, and I will go into what both of those things symbolize in a minute, but it was originally going to be big cats, like big, and then a small woman in the middle, and I decided to change that to being of more or less equal size, but the big cats being beneath the woman and myself, the woman, being, you know, center stage of the image. And the original composition, I feel as though, made me feel a little strange, because the big cats, so the lion is meant to represent the Britain. The lion is the national animal of the UK. Don't know why, but it is. And the Bengal tiger, or the Royal Bengal tiger, is the national representative animal of Bangladesh. So what it spoke to me, that original composition, was that I always felt as though my identities were fighting with each other. Like, was I more British or was I more Bengali, Bangladeshi, whichever one you want to call it. To me, they're the same thing. I know that that's blasphemy in some circles, but I don't care. But to me, that's what that spoke, and I wanted to rise above that and put instead the big cats below and put myself center front, because I am the subject of the image, not the big cats. And I didn't want to make the big cats the subject of the image. I wanted me to be the subject of the image because, hello, I'm God. We'll get into that. There's a very bold statement, and we will get into that. But I wanted to address the composition first, because the original composition is very different to the current composition that I have of the image. The next thing that I wanted to talk about was the body. So I had posted an image of just the outline sketch of myself. And I had pointed out to my Twitter following and to a few friends in private that I have very mannish features. And it was just an observation. I think that many people thought that I was talking myself down by saying that I have very mannish features, and I still do think that I have very mannish features, and I present myself sometimes in a very mannish way. Like, I shave the back of my head. I feel that that gives a very masculine feel to me. I have very heavy jaws, so that gives me a very mannish structure. My face is very rectangular, very square, like it's very square, and I have quite broad shoulders for a girl. I'm quite beefy, you know. I have very mannish features, and I don't think that that's a bad thing, but I feel like people interpreted me saying that as a bad thing. Like, quite a few people were saying that don't be so hard on yourself, or like it's completely untrue. Like, there's nothing wrong with that. I feel like there's nothing wrong with that, and I've never struggled with my gender as such, or my sex. I don't know. I don't know what the argument is there. I'm quite ignorant in that whole argument, but I've never had that struggle. I've always had in terms of my personality, I'm very tomboyish. I've done boyish things as a young girl. I always wanted to do boyish things. I always wanted to be involved in sports and like violent shows, and for some reason those things are characterized as being masculine. I'm not sure why, but they are. Probably because boys typically find those things more enjoyable, but so did I. So I've always had this presentation of being quite boyish. But in addition to that, even when I argue with someone, like, I used to argue on forums when I was a teenager all the time, and someone said to me, because I never used to use like my own face as my profile picture, so there were many people who assumed I was a man, and I always wondered why, but someone had said to me that I always argue like I'm a man, and I'm not sure what that means. But apparently I come across as masculine if, you know, people can't tell where I'm coming from. If people can't tell if I'm a guy or a girl, I present easier as masculine, and I'm not sure what that's about. Maybe it's confidence, maybe it's aggression, I don't know. but yeah, even my father used to say, you walk like a man, or you know, when you deal with things, you deal with things like a man. Like, he would say it in a really condescending way because I was a girl. Like, I'm emotional on this channel, but this is like one of my only outlets to be emotional. Like, I'm quite a logical person in real life. I don't know. I feel stupid saying that, but I am. Like, I don't process things in an emotional way immediately. It takes me a very long time to get to an emotional stage about things, which is probably why I have all these mental health issues, is that I don't deal with my emotions immediately, and I'm still coming to terms with them. But for some reason, that makes me appear more manly, and I feel as though I needed to incorporate that into my image. Like, I couldn't make myself a beautiful, like, lithe, skinny woman because I'm not. I genuinely am not. And I've come to terms with the fact that I'm quite a masculine woman, like I am. And I also, like, in addition to that, in terms of my physiology, in terms of my own biology, I have an excess of testosterone, so it adds up. It makes sense. In addition to that, I wanted to address the pose that I'm taking. It's not a very feminine pose, and what it was inspired by was a Miley Cyrus pose. And that may be saying a lot, but feminine poses are often very shy, very reserved, very coy, and I'm not a shy person, at least not now. I used to be. But I'm not a very shy person, and I wanted to present a pose that was, being greedy, being selfish, but of myself. I feel, as someone who is still discovering the world, I feel as though the only thing that I truly own in this world is my own body, and I needed to hold that. But in a very, like, the pose that I'm taking, it's not a very subtle pose. Like, it's not just me like this holding myself. It's a very aggressive, like, this is mine kind of pose. And that's what I wanted to convey in that image. And while, yes, my breasts are in it, I feel as though it's a very dominant stance, and that's what I wanted to show. It's not a very feminine pose, and I like that about the way that I sketched my own image. I'm just sitting here gassing myself like... This is such a strange video to do. Try it yourself one day. Like, you feel weird. The next thing that I wanted to address is the nudity. So while I was composing the image, I had thought about maybe like putting a garment on myself. Like, so the colors that I used were Bengali colors, and in the background I have blue and red to symbolize Britishness. And originally, while I was drawing and I had those two big cats, I thought maybe I would drape myself in a fabric or like a cloth or a flag, and I would put British colors on those. And I decided against it because I've been heard saying that clothes are stupid. Clothes have two purposes, okay? One is protection and one is self-expression. That is it. Any other reason you wear clothes, you're wearing them for the wrong reasons, and you need to reassess that. Clothes are stupid. I don't like clothes, especially since like leaving hijab culture and modesty culture. I find clothes really, really stupid as something that we have to wear in order to hide ourselves. Nudity also is a natural state of being, and I wanted to encapsulate that level of innocence and purity. So those of you who stated that, it's true, like, props to you. Well done. And the last thing I wanted to address is why I decided to color my body. The black and white image of just like the green and the red with just white in the background and just the fine sketch is beautiful. Like, I love that. But I wanted to throw in the skin color as well, because I feel as though I've had a hard time grasping the fact that I'm brown. And that sounds silly, but I grew up in the UK, I grew up, and also I wasn't born here. I was born in Bangladesh. So I was often treated as if I wasn't British enough. When I was in primary school, I was always sat with children and put in classes alone with children who didn't know how to speak English, when I knew how to speak the language fluently because I grew up on cartoons. That was the way that I learned English. And I was always treated like my handwriting was always criticized. So now my handwriting is immaculate. I'll show you. Like, my handwriting is immaculate, guys. So my handwriting was always criticized. My use of language was always criticized. I had horrible English teachers who would always treat me like I didn't know English when I knew perfect English. So my heritage and my skin color was something that I was always contentious about. I always thought to myself, if I was white, then my teachers would treat me like all the other kids. And that's a really shitty way to feel about yourself. I never felt as though I wanted to be lighter, but in my brain it was a very intrusive thought that if I was white, things would be so much easier for me. And maybe that's true. I don't know. But in Bengali culture, we have this really toxic mentality that the lighter you are, the more desirable you are. So I wanted to fuck that, like throw a big fuck you at that. I'm really happy with my skin color. I really like my skin color. And I'm really proud. Well, maybe not proud. I don't think that we should be inherently proud of anything we are besides what we do. But I like the fact that I'm brown, and I wanted to show that in my drawing. So now that we can move away from the body, oh my god, we're already 25 minutes in, Jesus Christ. I'm going to try and not rush this. This is going to be a long video. But now that we've talked about the body sketch, I did want to talk about the symbols. So I want to first address the tribal colors. So I'm very into tribal like paintings and like body modifications and tattoos. Like, that is something that I'm very into. I actually wanted to incorporate some Viking stuff into there, but there was already too much going on in the picture, so I sacrificed that. But I really enjoy like tribal body paint and tribal body modifications, and so like tattoos and like lip stretching, neck elongating, like all of those things. Like, I think that they're really beautiful in their own way. I don't know if I agree with them all, but I think that they're very beautiful in their own way. And obviously the head shaving as well. Like, I incorporated that into my image, even though that's currently what my head looks like when I tie my hair up, and my hair is often tied up in that way. So I really enjoy tribal things. As you know, tribalism in and of itself is toxic, but in terms of like the art and the colors that people use, I really enjoy that. I often say that I appropriate Viking culture because I think it's really cool, and that is the only reason I appropriate it. But I decided to put Bengali colors as my tribal colors, and I thought after the fact, after I had done it, that my choice to make this part of my face green and my hands green was really interesting, because I used to cover those things as a Muslim, because I used to cover my face and I used to cover my hands because I was devout. And I put the red dots here and on my chest because mind and heart. I think that was more or less my thought process for that. But I thought it was really interesting that I decided to paint my hands and the bottom half of my face green, because those were things that I always covered as a Muslim, and now I was highlighting them in a very Bengali fashion by putting them in green. I mean, if you want to interpret more from that, you can, but I just thought it was interesting. I'm still thinking through my thought process for choosing those, which is weird. So the colors are inherently Bengali, the red circles, the green paint. And the background colors are British colors, so the red and the blue, and I also put white in there, but obviously because it's white you can't see it. But the red and the blue are meant to symbolize the UK. The animals, as I said before, national animals of both countries. The lion represents Britain, the tiger, or the Royal Bengal tiger, which is a very specific kind of tiger, is Bangladesh's tiger. The flowers also are national flowers, so the rose is for Britain and the water lilies are for Bangladesh. And the last thing I would like to address in terms of symbols is the halo. The halo is a simple throwback to a series of images I drew for a while back, where I drew people with horns and with halos to represent humanness. So I just threw in the halo as symbolic of the pictures that I used to draw and something that I'm moving on from. I will still incorporate halos into my work because I think that they're beautiful, but it's not something that I just want to do anymore. I also thought about putting horns in my picture, but I thought that that would be too on the nose, so I just put the halo there. And I'm going to go into the reason for that in a second. The words that I put in Arabic, and I used Arabic to throw back to my very Muslim culture as well, and something that I had a true love and devotion to. And the original words that I skewed were La ilaha illallah, which was there is no God but Allah. But for those of you who think I'm Muslim now, well done to you. Props. Like, you can leave now. But I decided to reinterpret that. Like, you know, I have this poster in the background of most of my videos, and it says La ilaha, which means there is no God. And that's a well and good message in and of itself. As an atheist, that is something that I can get behind. Also, this is Muhammad. Rate him on a scale of 1 to 10. But I wanted to add my part to that. And I wanted to say La ilaha illa ana, which means there is no God but me. And like the halo really ties in with that. And what I mean by that, and I think a few people took this in a very God complex way. There is no deities that I really identify with besides, like, I identify with really masculine deities. Like, I identify with gods of war, and I identify with gods of knowledge. So like Athena, Ares, Odin, like those kind of deities, like I can really get behind. I find them really, really fascinating as deities and the way that they behave in their mythologies. But what I meant by that, what I mean by there is no God but me, is the realization that I am the master of my own destiny, my own body. And for a long time, I thought that I did not have control over those things. Like, my body was being commanded by God, and God knew my fate, where I was going to end up. And once I left that, because my reason for leaving was very much a distaste for the God that I was worshipping, I realized that now my destiny was purely in my own hands, and I could do whatever I wanted with them. So the statement that there is no God but me is not a command of dominion over others at all, in the slightest. I have no interest in changing anyone else or telling them what to do, but it is an admission that I am the master of my own will and of my own destiny, and I'm going to take that with both hands and try to commandeer that to the best of my ability. I'm going to stop the recording because I know my camera is going to die in a second. Thank you for watching my video. I hope it's been informative. I hope you enjoyed it. And yeah, if you have any other interpretations for me, or if you found this video in any way interesting, if you would like to submit pictures of your own, please do. I would love to see them, and I would love to see like your, like I've had this image of myself for like a few weeks where I just want to recreate myself, and I'm very good at doing that. Like, I mean, I color my hair. I'm not shy about the kind of clothes that I wear. I know what I know what and who I am. And you know, I also understand that I have a potential to be other things. So I wanted to exert this image not only of as human, like my new intro is very different to my old one. My old one was very much horns, halo, you know, I'm human, I sin and I'm good, you know, all that stuff, like pretentious shit, right? But this new intro is very much me trying to recreate myself, trying to combine my cultures, trying to identify, you know, what makes me strong. And I think what makes me strong is that I've identified that I'm the master of my own will. You know, I like those things about myself, and I really wanted to show those things, and I feel like I did, to some extent, convey those things. And I you know, I would very much encourage you to do it if you have that kind of time, first of all, and second of all, if that is, you know, if that is something that you want to do. But thank you for watching this video. I truly hope you enjoyed it, and I truly hope you gained something from it. If you didn't, please let me know in the comments why. If you did, also comment and tell me what you liked about this video, what you didn't like about this video. Like this video, subscribe, you know, share it around, you know, reach out to me on Twitter. That's my most used social media platform. follow me on my Instagram accounts. All of the links and things like that are in the description below. I also have a Patreon account. Please do support me if you want to. There is no obligation to, of course, but please do. If you would like to contribute to me monthly, if you would like to give a one-off contribution, my PayPal links are also in the description. And yeah, thank you, and I will see you in the next video.